Well, time to stay glued to your virtual screens for this interesting fireside chat on learnings from successful CX projects at Capgemini and Conneqt Business Solutions. In the interest of time, I shall give very brief introductions of our eminent speakers, but please do read their detailed profiles in the Speakers Lounge. I extend a warm welcome to Mr. Rinoo Rajesh, Vice President, Business Transformation Services, Conneqt Business Solutions. We welcome Mr. Bharathwaj Ranganathan, APAC Head of FPIA Consulting, Capgemini. We also welcome Mr. Subramanya C, President and Global Chief Technology Officer, Hinduja Global Solutions. Thank you so much for joining us. And I invite our moderator, Mr. Sachin Bhatia, co-founder and CEO, Ameyo, to lead this conversation. So over to you, Mr. Bhatia.
Thank you so much, Deepti, and afternoon, everyone. Afternoon, Barry, Subbu. We were having a chat backstage, and it was almost like four friends discussing over coffee. It has been a very, very interesting day for me. I've been in and out of sessions, I've heard, and there is this very common thread that I'm hearing, which is buzzwords. And it seems that people are recognizing that some of what is being talked about is actually buzzwords than real applications. So in the tradition of how we have been doing sessions at Ameyo, we're going to keep it very, very real. And that is what I have requested my panelists also, that going with the theme of what we said in the morning, be genuine, be remarkable. We want to keep it very real. We want to keep it to experience sharing rather than models. And we want to talk about three very interesting areas. And we have three leaders from the industry who will be sharing our experiences. So let me bring in the first topic. The first topic is itself about differentiation, right? We talked in the morning that with all this clutter of technology, BCP, gain share models, and everybody saying almost the same thing, how does one actually differentiate as a business process outsourcing company, right? What are the real differentiators that are out there? And let me throw this to Rinoo. Rinoo, can I bring you in? How does one really differentiate, man, in this very competitive market?
Yeah, Sachin. So, like you said, in this technologically different world, everybody has every gizmo that you can mention. You have BCP, I have cloud, AI, but at Conneqt, and I'm sure my other panelists will also agree, one of the key differentiating factors in delivery of, at least from a CX perspective, is how strong is your employee experience. I mean, the employee who's at the end delivering that experience to customer has to be in the right frame of mind, has to be enabled properly, has to be motivated, has to absorb the brand attributes of the customer and customer he or she is representing. So we lay a lot of emphasis on these enablement factors. AI, self-service are all good. They all build personas for brands, but at the end, when it comes down to delivering actual experience, it's the humans who are collaborating with algorithms and machines, but at the end, they are responsible. And we lay a huge amount of emphasis on this. And there are a lot of enablement technologies. I mean, AI can work both sides, right? One for the customer and the other for the employee as well, how enabled they are. And this has been very highly accentuated during the pandemic. When people moved home, a different set of problems emerged. Earlier, you could draw upon the tribal knowledge of people who were sitting beside you and deliver that experience. Suddenly, you're sitting alone at home, away from all that enabling systems and processes. So this has been one of the key areas that I think has been one differentiators that leaders in this segment have been able to bring about. I mean, there are, and like I said, all sort of technologies, collaboration, AI, enablement, knowledge management, ability to tap for help in real time. That's all been there. And Subbu, what has been your experience here?
Yeah. See, I think it was pretty good. Like what definitely, Rajesh, what you were trying to say, employee experience is very key. All of us have heard about it a lot. If employee is really satisfied, he will definitely satisfy the customers, right? And I think you brought out a very right point stating that, he needs to carry the brand. If he is sitting and trying to answer that, he almost needs to embrace that brand. he needs to almost wear the brand, eat the brand, and do with the brand whatever he needs to do. Because only then he will be able to really give a satisfying experience. Truly to say, employee experience is very, very important. I totally collaborate with you. And even in the word of collaboration, what you rightly said, in the early days of pandemic, people used to rub their shoulders being in the office, as you rightly said. Because the problem is the experience has been being around. If there is, in simple for a technology guy, if there is a challenge happening, he needs to communicate to not one office, it's to 10,000 homes. It's the spread has become so much, right? The communication, which was the readiness of the organization, of the infrastructure, the technology, were all very, very important. You also brought out one or two good words, cloud, right? If people were not ready with any of those, or if they were on their journey, it would have been definitely a challenging task. I have seen in most of the forums and where I, in the initial days, spoke with NASCOM and with most of the people, we have seen this employee experience was in the first initial stage, all of us, we are trying to go to the home. Earlier, people used to come to the office and we are trying to go and capture. It's almost like we are taking their private space and trying to do. It needed a balance between, what happens. You could hear a mixie sound at home or a fan rotating higher or somebody coming out from the back, right? These are all challenges which we had. But trust me, the customers also understood during the pandemic days, ultimately they need to serve their end clients, right? So for all this to happen, your major point is the employee needs to be satisfied, motivated to really handle all this, right? He can always say, no, I think I'm not in a mood to really handle. He can always exit out of it, right? So we need to really, when the initial stage, we had to literally do shouldering them, supporting them, guiding them, engaging them by getting on various calls or teams. And in fact, all these companies have also made tons of money because of these reasons, because of the collaboration, what you said, right? And somebody may not want to really get into their private space by getting on the video. So we need to request them, tell them how it will help. And then a lot of these things made a lot of difference in the BPO industry, which we have seen the other part of the world who is recipient of the services have really been very, very happy with the services what we have kept up. I'll not continue. I'll leave it to you, Sachin.
So hold on. I want to pursue this point because both points that the gentleman mentioned, right? One is engaged employees, which means our capacity to deliver on fully ramped up folks. If I have to put it very objectively and bring out take out the emotion out of it. And the second is the readiness on cloud. I'm saying eventually all this is gonna become table stake. Right? It's essential for delivery. Let me reverse the question a little bit, and I want to stay on this point that when our customers are coming to us and discussing new contracts, what is that one or two thing that is really, really important for them? What do they deeply care about? Is it service continuity? Is it cost? Is it quality? What are the things that you're hearing? Or there are different kinds of customers and each of them have different priorities. I'm putting you on a spot here, but because that is what will help us differentiate.
Sachin, sorry, just to continue because I was speaking on, you're absolutely right. Whatever the three things what you said has all become hygiene now. Yeah. People will come back and say, cloud, okay, are you not on cloud? That's the way it is. So we need to be very clear. What is on cloud? Because everybody can't take everything onto the cloud, right? Mm-hmm. It is, okay, I can be on the cloud. Is your telephony on cloud? Is your enterprise application on cloud? Are you going to give everything to me to be on cloud? Am I the only guy who's accessing it? Like me, there will be Barry who's in Capgemini and then Conneqt. All of them will be accessing the same applications which is sitting on cloud. Am I the owner of it? Can I really take the responsibility of managing it? All these will come up. Apart from all this, they will certainly look at few things. One, your subject matter expertise. Whichever domain you are trying to do, because customer service has become a horizontal now, right? It all depends on which world are you in. For example, if you are a customer service for a finance, customer service for an healthcare, how much of domain experience you do have. Based on the domain experience, what you do have, that becomes a plus for you. Apart from this, how much have you really innovated, right? In that particular domain, have you used technology? Are you still completely with the people? So, everybody wants to really look at how can I save money, right? Nobody will say that, okay, I'll continue to spend my money. Even the global development centers and offshore centers which have come, they themselves have really spoken about how do we really cut down the costs. That's the way they will be. When they need to do, you can't really solely depending only on employee. It's a collaboration between your employee and the bots. How much you can really collaborate? How much is the ecosystem ready within yourself? And do you have a center of excellence with your people whom you have built with the technology knowledge base, which can be replicated to other customers? Those are also very important, right? Because the knowledge base, what you're carrying from A, may be or may not be shared with B and C, but what can be really common? So these are all the things which they really look at. So literally to say the maturity in your innovation and how you deliver services, how much committed you are, at what pace you will be able to really take it up, or all these become table stakes.
Love the domain expertise example, Subbu, because I think once you have a niche customer and you say, I do this better than the other person in this domain, but I don't do anything in other domains, people actually respect you more rather than saying, I can do everything everywhere. Okay, let me.
You're right, Sachin. Again, not to steal the thunder, you're absolutely right. People expect that I'll do everything they don't want to hear. They want to specifically hear, I'm a master of this, I've done this very well, and I can do it, and my experience can be counted. So you're right, Sachin.
Perfect. Let's bring in the second discussion point. This is very, very close to heart. I was addressing a bunch of CIOs in Mumbai just pre-pandemic, and this emanated from CIOs asking me that, Sachin, what do you have in AI? And I used to ask them, what problem are you trying to solve? I can tell you NLP, ASI, TTS, but that's like, again, me selling you vegetables. Tell me a problem that you have and I'll solve it for you. And I saw that most of it is driven by FOMO, but it seems that things are changing. And let me bring in Barry first. Barry, AI is FOMO or real? Do you see real use cases, real applications where you've seen it in practice, and businesses actually taking advantage of it?
I would say there are real use cases in AI, definitely, and in ML as well. But there is definitely the rings of Saturn on FOMO. Everybody has the fear of missing out, and fear of missing out is making people solve or use AI or robotics or ML to try to be there. I mean, they don't want to miss out on this journey, and sometimes there is not a need. But classic case, 5 years ago, I was in a startup company in Amsterdam, and what they were doing was they had piloted a facial recognition technology for travelers in airports. Basically, it will capture your face twice, and it will map in your demographics, your age, and it will also indicative mood indicators, so that people can be taken out. Somebody is looking too tense, somebody is looking too sick, or whatever it is. And this is 5 years ago, right? They were trying to solve a real problem to say, how can we speeden up this process? And see, now with pandemic and everything coming in, it has gone into a high gear, quite literally. Okay. So there are, and you are very right, if you have a real problem to solve and you try to apply AI to it, it works well. Okay. If you're trying to do something, no, I think this process, we need to put AI into it, it's not going to work. And I keep telling this to a lot of my customers. They say, let's get certain things right and see where's the business impact, where's the payback. Because it is not just to do it because somebody else is doing it or your competitor is doing it, because they may have a completely different problem. You may be in the same space competing, but they're trying to address a completely different problem. Let's look at the root cause of what problems you want to solve for and see what is the applicability. Then we can bring the best tools and the best practices and the best integrations possible to deliver the most optimum result, right? That's where my team and we are headed in a direction right now. Actually, I'm in a consulting assignment with a client. We are trying to reuse as much as artifacts and what it is there with the client ecosystem, rather than saying that you build this or you buy this. Because there's a beautiful thing. It says the wealth of a nation is directly proportional to the amount of garbage it generates. So that is primarily because how much garbage you produce shows how wealthy you are. But India as a country and as a race, as a people, I think reusability and rewiring something has been very much within our DNA. And I think we should use it very strongly and see where the use cases are and try to reuse, re-edge the tools which we are using, rather than build fresh up and then not go anywhere. But of course, if you have a real problem to solve, you want to do an AI solution for it, do a proof of concept and fail fast.
Before I bring in Subbu sir, Barry's example reminded me of a conversation with a very large utilities customer. I'll not name them. And there was a use case that a lot of calls are coming in for resending the bills. So can we now put a speech recognition and a TTS engine to address that and reduce? And I said that why don't you offer that as the first option on the IVR and send them the bill on the WhatsApp? Why do you need all the jing bang? And that actually solved the problem better than a 6-month TTS project that I could have done. But I said, if this is the problem you're looking to solve, there is a much simpler, very elegant solution. Here is, and the results would be out in a week. So most likely the motivation there was again FOMO. But Subbu, let me bring you in. You've been a practitioner. Where does it really apply? Have you seen it working? Tell me use cases, especially in the BPO industry, conversational space, or maybe modeling space. Where have you seen it working?
Yeah, Sachin, I think pretty rightly, I think Barry also said very clearly, you need to really look at what fail fast is a very, very important thing, right? You need to look at what is that which you need to do. And the example what you also gave, right? Problem definition use case is very important. Not because, and there are, again, it's with the maturity of the customer and the, how old is your customer, what is your relationship with the customer, right? It also depends on which stage you really talk about AI. The sales guy need to talk about AI. He can always say, I've got tons of use cases in AI within your organization, which can be deployed to based on the vertical, right? Let's take a vertical of healthcare, what we do have. We, by default, a large healthcare customer or a financial customer will constantly ask you, what's in it for me? What will you say for me? Every year you have a multi-million-dollar deals, what you have signed, right? You have to bring in whatever technology you do want, just keep saving me. It is not that only AI will solve the problem, right? It is multiple things which we need to do. We need to understand whether there is a cause or a case for an AI, right? Is there a simple business transformation which we can really do? All this generation of this AI, etc., it is not that it is not required, but it all started off with how? You start improving quality processes, then you do some transformation, then you will start doing a BPR, then you really look at bringing in a tool, right? If you really look at, if you have understood all these steps, and if we have really moved the maturity curve with the customer, and the customer is ready for it, and if there is a buy-in across, because this is very, very important, there needs to be a buy-in. I can always bring in an AI. If there is no buy-in within the organization, a customer service department really have an AI, and there'll be nobody to really cater to. It's like, go back to our old simple service desk. If I know I can answer the call using AI and ML, automatically it will solve. It could be simple password reset to creating a VM also, which can be done automatically based on the load, what happens today, right? So there are so many use cases between the AI and ML. You need to be very clear, what are you trying to really project? What is that which you are trying to select to a customer? Or how are you going to do? So I'll give you an example purely in the healthcare case, what we have really done, because we need to showcase it to our existing customers. Let's say, for example, there'll be multiple providers in the US, right? We need to reconcile the accounts for multiple providers which are available in multiple states. And whereas the payer had to really pay individually depending on the different states, what we do have. So we have built engines in such a way which is an add-on, because we can't really go and say that I am building a separate engine which will not talk to your system, because there are a lot of claim processing engines which is existing with them. We need to use this as bolt-on and host it in his data center. It will be applicable not only for me, it will be applicable for multiple customers, multiple BPO service providers for him. Because you need to understand, because the gamut is, you can't really say it's patented by me, right? It's his idea, his machines. We are only coming out with a new way. How do we solve the problem? That's it. So in all these to say, we have built all the center of excellence, keep it ready. When a potential customer comes, showcase all this. So then he will say, okay, you guys have gone deep, understood, and brought in these AI technologies as and when required. Because it's very important. You could always show a chatbot and say, okay, I'm going to do AI, right? It could be a screen scraping and say an AI, OCR, ICR, everything, right? So it all depends on what you need to really showcase. It's a very, very broad word, right? In IT, in cloud, everything you can start using your ML also, right? IoT devices today, you can do a lot of things which we have seen, right? Capturing all these data and trying to service that customer, and readiness of the customer, as I said, very important. That customer will say, okay, these data is available, but I have acquired one more company. Try to integrate these two databases. Forget about AI. That itself is a big journey for companies. So we need to really look at how do we bring in AI? When do we bring in AI? And very important, have use cases, problem definitions clearly told. This is my view.
The customer buy-in is such a beautifully expressed point, and how pertinent. In Malaysia, a couple of years ago, we were talking to a VPO which was doing outbound sales, and they wanted everything to be done manually. And we said you could actually automate and put a dialer. He said, but I am paid per FTE. So why would I want to do that? I said, what is the process about? It's a sales process. Let's go to your customer and say, if I give you 1.5 times more sales, would it make sense? He said, our customers only pay us by FTE. So unless there is a buy-in and an understanding on what you are actually trying to achieve, again, I was trying to do a sale of a dialer there. This is, I think half a decade ago, but the problem didn't exist in the customer's head. And I was saying that more sales should mean more revenue. He said, no, we just have a fixed FTE model, so can't do anything. So very, very pertinent. Similarly, in AI, if you are trying to reduce, let's say, agent headcount, that's a great use case, but are our business models and the experimentation around it, because it will take some time to mature. This would be through the buy-in of the customer. Okay, let me bring in the last point of our conversation. I think this is very, very interesting, and we can go on. The last point is on 10 years back, when we used to go to BPOs, technology was bought and we used to amortize over 5 years, 7 years. But I have a feeling that pandemic was, it showed us a mirror that you can't assume stuff like that. So let me bring in Subbu sir again. Subbu sir, has the boardroom accepted OpEx as a model? You mentioned cloud is default now, but has it accepted? Has the CFO also said, yes, you tell me what's the longevity of it? What are the conversations happening in the boardroom when we think of new technology, CapEx versus OpEx?
See, cloud has become a boardroom word more than the CIOs. See, again, we spoke about a little while ago, the responsibility is on the CIO. Whether cloud works, cloud doesn't work, cloud fails, it's the responsibility is CIO. But the CFO and the CEO will always come back and say, why are you not leveraging the cloud here? That is so easily available. Why don't you start implementing it? And the board will say, start, because I don't have to spend a huge money. There is no capital expenditure which I need to do. As the business grows, you can always start. But the dynamics, I'm not saying cloud is not good. Cloud is the best for all of us to really go, right? It depends on the time. Very, very important, right? For an organization where it has already invested 5 years, 7 years, where they used to do, right? The same discussion was not happening as what Barry said 10 years ago, right? Your face recognition was a small thing. Today, face recognition has come to every house, because whether Subbu is speaking or proxy of Subbu is speaking is being recognized and being tested by everybody. So if you look at the maturity of the technology, investment when you have really done, what has it really been in your books, right? Has it really given you the value of what it is? Have you used all your asset completely, right? Is another time where you need to look at. And again, is your, if you have, I always say something, if there is a stable load, like you brought out Sachin very aptly, the FTE model, this FTE model will die very fast is what that partner or your customer should have understood. If he has not, it would have been a problem, right? So you need to be either the leader in the game or a follower in the game. You need to make the decision, right? And at what time you need to be the leader in the game? Is it when it is matured or when it is maturing or when your readiness is there? It also depends on, like we always say, I'm sure all my colleagues will accept here, it is not that every application can go to the cloud, right? And it is not that every application go to the same time also, because some of the applications which have been built, even today we run on some of the applications in the insurance sector, which is run in green screen. So can I really straight away take it to the cloud? It's not possible. They still continue to have 10,000 square foot of data center space. But are they really looking at drawing a technology roadmap in alignment with us as BPO service providers or IT service providers? Certainly, yes. Because we will be able to really tell them, we will save you, because they also would have their own capex constraints which they need to work on, right? So we need to work with our customers, draw a technology roadmap with them. So timing is very, very essential is what I look at. And the maturity, like I said about the green screen, if the databases which are really underlying there and the data which is lying there, if it is not capable to really migrate it to the web version or to any other database, it will be a challenge. So that's a maturity which we need to look at, right? All this open mindset, which is very, very important, right? Because mindset is also very, very clear, because the organization should be able to reuse the funds. See, today, I even attended one of the classes from one of the lecturers and somebody who was from Harvard who spoke to us on CapEx versus OpEx. Trust me, he gave us a beautiful Excel sheet to prove to us that OpEx really works very well, right? Then we were working with them to really showcase, to say why. And then the amount of whys which he gave, and then the returns what you really get. For example, if you have $100 and if you know where to redeploy instead of deploying it on the CapEx, it makes a beautiful sense. But the redeploying of that $100 is also equally essential. That's where I always say cloud in a context you need to really look at, right? Am I ready for taking the whole contact center onto the cloud? Depends. I always say very clearly, the reason is because, let's say, for example, if my customer says that for the next 1 year or 2 years, I will only want you to have a stable load, only answering these calls. I am very clear. I have my different set of customers or different set of partners who are doing these things. Then it makes sense for you to really have your technology, which is existing, to juice it further. And at the right time, go and put it onto the cloud, right? So I think it's a question of maturity, timing. What have you really yielded from your thing? And then where can you really redeploy your cost or your money, what you do have? Because if you recollect, where did this cloud really start off? A lot of these cloud native companies, right? So all of them, while they really came up for testing, a lot of applications, you don't have to really build a huge setup. You can always put it up there, test it and come back. Bringing it to our own scenario today, if you have a VDI, right? Let's take a VDI, which is available on a cloud, right? If you want to do a training, during a training, especially in the pandemic, you have 10,000 people sitting in 10,000 locations, right? You need to have the bandwidth, what we are talking today, and you want to have the security also. So what will you do? You don't want to give them a desktop. You want to give them a thin client. While you give a thin client, you need to really augment your resources at the back end, which is your cloud infra or on-prem VDI if you have built. If you have built an on-prem VDI and if you have to give 16 gig, hypothetically, a memory, right, during the training, and post that you don't have an application use for it, then it's gone, right? It's waste. So you need to look at a right use case to really build a cloud also, right? We have really looked at and done. And today, adoption, like Ameyo, Exotel, Cogno AI, if you really look at what happens, if I had to earlier look at in the old age of infrastructure, you had a typical Meridian, you right, or an Avaya, what you have. You want to have a chat integrated, then it will be a challenge. You want to really have your WhatsApp integrated, another challenge, right? Or you want to have a voice recognition system or a face recognition system, like what Barry said. All these will be a challenge. Today, all these are available as options, pick and choose, available on the cloud. Offer it as, instead of we becoming a OEM or becoming a service provider, you be a service provider by picking up the right flavor of the services which you need to pick up from the cloud platform provider and transfer it to your customer, which becomes very easy for us, because it's not that everybody wants everything. Some of your customers will come back and say, I want to be purely on chat. Excellent. Then I don't have to do anything. Use the cloud platform, use your knowledge base, try to give your service to the customer.
Perfect.
These are variances which I can really talk about.
The takeaway for me is, instead of one CapEx investment, do 10 OpEx experiments and maybe fail fast from our previous thing and learn more, right? That would help you move forward. Gentlemen, we are absolutely out of time.
Sorry, I took a lot of time.
Second warning right now, but this was very, very engaging. Thank you so much. And thanks to the ETBPO team. Over to Dipti.